Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome back to some World of Tanks action. And first of all, my apologies, I haven't put out a video in a week or two because I've had the seasonal lurgy. No, nothing too serious, just good old-fashioned man flu. It seems to have been a bad cold slash maybe a flu, and no, I'm not talking about that flu. Doing the rounds in the UK over the last few weeks, I'm sure completely unrelated to the fact that the schools have just gone back. And yeah, so I had that, and so it meant that recording videos was hard because I couldn't do more than about 5 minutes without breaking into a coughing fit at the best. And that was when I actually had a voice to work with. There was a good chunk of time when I just didn't, and so at best you'd have had me rasping and all that jazz. Anyway, so for today's video we have got some subscribers. Yeah, they're the ones. Some subscribers. It's going to be a bit of a Chinese affair with regards to today's video. So we've got 3 different Chinese vehicles, all from different classes, all at different tiers. No, not quite all at different tiers, but driven by 3 different drivers. So that's what we've got. And we shall see how it goes, essentially. So, initially, we are joining Wolfwin, and he is in the Tier 6 Chinese tank destroyer. This is the WZ-131GFT. And he is choosing not to use the top gun on this. He's using the 85mm gun on this machine instead. I think this thing gets access to a 100... certainly gets a 100mm gun. And I'm pretty sure it gets access to a 122mm gun as well. But Wolfwin is choosing to use the 85, which is, what have we got, 180 alpha damage and 145 penetration. So those of you out there who've played tanks like the T-34-85, it's basically that gun. Kind of weedy for a tier 6 tank destroyer. Is the sort of gun you would more typically find on, like T-34-85, a tier 6 medium tank, maybe a tier 6 heavy tank in some cases, or a tier 5 heavy tank. But nonetheless, when you take a relatively low caliber gun and you put it on a tank destroyer, of course, what you typically get is a rather tasty rate of fire. Ooh, hello, Mr. Caro. So this isn't hugely dissimilar to the 88mm gun that you get on the Jagdpanzer IV that I so enjoy. That thing, of course, also gets a 75mm gun as an option. Nice little bit of weighting there. Wolfwin waited there for the Caro to turn his hull. I'm going to assume that was intentional, because it meant that the guy's armour was not angled at a stupid angle and Wolfwin could actually shoot him. Now he appears to be going for the track here, which is actually paying dividends, because he is also doing some damage here or there as well, and some assistance damage there, as people are able to nail that guy, and Wolfwin kept him in position. Really nice bit of play there, and actually Wolfwin is rewarded with the kill on that tier 7 Italian heavy tank. So just to talk about this game then, we are looking at Province, everybody's favourite map, yippee-ki-yay. It's a tier 7 match, so that Caro was a top tier heavy tank, and Wolfwin is playing this one quite aggressively. So he has driven over to what you would traditionally consider like the enemy ridgeline, essentially. And there's a firing position up here. Oh, hello, artillery. Firing position up here. There's kind of a corresponding firing position at JE9 on the enemy at the other side of the map. And he is playing spotter, as well as shooting some peeps. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, no, we're over here, SU. The SU-152 is a blind machine, by the way. Oh, dear. Wolfwin does have some fun and games with ping in this game. Oh, not able to finish the SU off. That's sad. So, yeah, the Soviet tank destroyers are blind as about... Oh, there goes the SU. Well, Wolfwin doesn't get the assistance for it or anything, but he did enable his team to, and specifically his friendly M44 there, to pick up the kill on that tier 7 tank destroyer. So that's another top tier tank down. But Wolfwin's playing this relatively aggressively. He's kind of being a sort of pseudo scout, and you can do that in some tank destroyers preferably the ones with some half-decent mobility going on, and this thing is no slouch. Based, of course, on medium tank chassis. So, I believe this is essentially based on the T-34 chassis, certainly looks like it. So if you know what you're doing, ooh, that's not a thing that you want looking at you, but thankfully he's not looking at Wolfwin here. Sorry, let's just watch as Wolfwin takes this guy apart. Because that's 2 shots. Can we get a 3rd shot in before he turns around? Right into the lower plate, nicely done, and Wolfwin backs off there. Lovely play there to get 3 solid shots into that SU, a very dangerous tank when it's top tier. But now he's kind of caught between a rock and a mixed metaphor. So, what was I saying? I can't remember. Oh, SU, SU, SU. That's a nice lower front plate you've got there. Shame if someone were to, yeah, that. Yeah, SU2 indeed. So, interestingly there, Wolfwin actually gets hit by an AP round from an enemy T-34-85M, who was of course last spotted up at G8, and oh, there's an enemy Achilles, and suddenly Wolfwin is finding out why when you do something like this in a tank destroyer, you do have to do it with some care, because essentially if people are able to hurt you, you don't have many hit points to work with, you often don't have much in the way of armour to work with, and things can go wrong quite quickly. So Wolfwin is now below half health, having taken 2 shots. One is a low damage roll from that T-34's 85mm gun, but compensated for, I guess, by the high damage roll from the Achilles. 100 and... I've just had a brain fart. 17-pounder gun. 76mm gun. Why am I saying 100 or something? Good lord. I'm such a donut. Yeah, maybe I am converting it into Imperial. What would it be in Imperial? 100 what? It's not 100 inches. Sorry, I've got Loki in the background being silly. And making me suddenly sound like an idiot. Oh, can we snipe that poodle? Ah, the poodle dies. Anyway, what I was trying to say is you can play a bit more aggressively with your tank destroyers. As long as you know the map, you know what you're doing, you're not afraid to run away when the going gets tough. And you don't push your luck too much. Speaking of pushing your luck, oh, Cheeto. Would have been really nice to get that shot into the Achilles. Can we pick up the KV-2? No, of course it's a critical hit. Of course the Soviet deflector shields come up at the last minute. Anyway, couldn't save him for long, and it's actually the friendly Burt called Royd Songkon Daddy. Rabbi 18, fine. The friendly Burt actually nails that KV-2. So the friendly team are actually up on kills, but down quite badly on hit points, and that shouldn't come as a huge surprise when you consider the friendly team now have left 2 SPGs and 3 tank destroyers. Not machines renowned for packing loads of hit points. Having said that, on the enemy team, they've got 2 SPGs, a tank destroyer and a medium tank, so it's not as if they have got a couple of big, fat, hit point laden heavies floating around. Please ignore the sound of the child's toy in the background that my delightful wife has just punted. Yeah, you better be sorry. Anyway, what can you do? So, the SU-152 on Wolfwin's team has indicated that he will help Wolfwin out. Well, that's lovely. It really is. The intent is nice, but he's also at, like, C8. So, whether or not the guy will actually be able to help Wolfwin here is another story. Wolfwin is kind of isolated, and he has to be careful because, of course, we have reason to suspect that T-34-85M is over on the other side of the map. So if Wolfwin gets spotted, there's a reasonable chance that guy is going to be able to shoot him. The Achilles, we're pretty sure, is still going to be over on this side of the map. And the artillery, well, you'd expect them to be hunkering down around J1, but to be fair, the M44 is a pretty mobile tank, so it could have relocated. Now, Wolfwin's got a HE shell loaded here. The HE shells on this thing are pretty good. 300 alpha is nice. However, he does actually use it to good effect. Over 100 damage, non-penetrating there on that T-34, blows the guy's tracks off, but you do have to wonder if AP wouldn't have been better. If you know you're going to be engaging the artillery, fair enough. Maybe even the Achilles. The armor on that thing is pretty woeful. But I'm not sure HE there was actually the right ammo choice. Oh, hello, Mr. Achilles. Oh, no, don't trade with him. He's going to reload. Oh, you're on 11 hit points. He's got a smaller caliber gun than you, Wolfwin, and he's still a same tier tank destroyer. He was always going to reload that one faster. And now the Achilles is in an interesting position because he has the hit point. Well, there was a artillery shell. He had the hit point advantage against Wolfwin. Wolfwin's going for the proxy. Can artillery keep this up? Given the artillery in question, never mind, it was an Su-152. Deleting the gentleman. I was going to say, given that the artillery in question could be an FV-304 and that thing has a decent rate of fire, maybe, but lovely bit of counter battery fire there from the friendly M44 to finish off one of the enemy M44s, and suddenly that just leaves one friendly SPG remaining, wondering where all his friends went. Wolfwin has got a HE shell loaded here, which I think is the correct ammunition choice in this instance, and at this point you have to feel that the allies should have this. Bert is not taking prisoners, he's going for it, but it's Wolfwin who just blows the guy away, and that is game number 1. Let's have a look at the post-game stats. So a pretty nice result there from Wolfwin in his WZ. Ace Tanger, Spotter, Bruiser, Fire for Effect, and a high caliber medal. A nice, solid, well, I say a solid result, it was a good result, let's not mince words. He came top of his team by damage, came top of the match by damage, but not top of the game by experience. Shout out to 4Lee7, is that how you pronounce that name? In his M44, 2,406 damage, 3 kills, 1,411 base experience, 1,625 damage by stunning in his SPG. Very well done to that guy. It is not very often you see an SPG at the top of the XP tables, especially not on over 1,400. Very well done to him. Really, shout out should also go there to the Bert, who was moving up, the Su-152, getting that lovely shot there across the valley. Commiserations to the Achilles and the KV-2. Good amounts of damage from them, but just not quite enough to drag their team to victory. 26 shots fired, 20 hits, 14 pens, and 1 splash from a HE round. 25? 2,502 damage done. Most of it was actually from relatively close range. 4 hits received, 4 penetrations. You can't really expect to bounce much in machines like this. 6 enemy vehicles spotted, 8 damage, 3 destroyed, 1,525 assistance damage, 2.83 kilometers travelled. A very nice result. Looks like Wolfwin doesn't even carry premium ammunition on that tank, which is a brave decision. The thing is always when you take those lower caliber guns that sometimes pack higher DPM, the trade-off is often you're getting lower penetration, or one of the trade-offs, and so you can find that you struggle in higher tier matchups, especially if what you like to do is just sit at the back and try and use your tank as a railgun. You don't have a railgun, you kind of have more of a, I'm trying to think of an adequate comparison, assault rifle? Anyway, this metaphor's really falling apart. Point is, that's a brave decision, and he still did well. I liked the aggressive play that it really worked out for his team, and well done to Wolfwin. Just a nice game to watch. That is game number 1. We've got 2 more for you. Let's get on with it. Game number 2 then, and we are joining My Name is Puffs in the Chinese Tier 8 Premium Tank Destroyer. Tank Destroyer? This isn't a tank destroyer, this is a heavy tank, sorry. The 112. This is the original Chinese Tier 8 Premium Heavy Tank. And in common with the other preferential matchmaking machines, it's not a dinky-donk you really see all that much. They've rather fallen out of favour with people, which I always find a little bit curious. The general argument seems to be, oh well, I don't get to shoot tier 6s very much. Like, yeah, but you don't get to shoot tier 10s either. I still find the preferential matchmaking tanks fine, personally. But, you know, go figure. Anyway, so, why am I showing you this game? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is, frankly, because I wanted to show you... Oh, hello, cheeky little monster. I wanted to show you a game from a sort of more old school premium. You know, you've got preferential matchmaking here. Now, don't get me wrong, the 112 in the game these days is, in a way, has very little in common with the 112 that was originally in the game. It's oh, hello. Been very significantly buffed since it first went into the game. But, ooh, bounced. But all the same, still wanted to show it to you, and, I mean, if you're going to try that M6, fair enough. And the other reason is because this is an excellent example of what you don't do. So, this is an all tier 8 game, there are tier 8s everywhere, and there's no artillery in this match, which means that Puffs can do this. Now, the 112 has pretty good armour these days. I mean, if you knew what you were doing, you could often make the armour work on this thing anyway. The gun lets it down a bit sometimes, but the armour, not so much. So, what the enemy team here are doing, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks over on that corner. They've seen Puffs, and they've just, I don't know, stood still to shoot him. Ah, we must shoot that tank! Shoot it! Shoot it! Shoot it now! And I'm like, what are you doing? Move up. You've given up so much map control and position. And you're not even doing anything to him. It doesn't matter if you double tap the 2 key, Basante. You're in a terrible engagement. Don't be there. And Puffs' team are making full use of it. But sometimes I just wonder about some people. Puffs, by the way, is just firing good old-fashioned regular armor piercing here. He's also getting some spotting, some halfway between spotting and assistance there, some spotting damage, because, well, he's spotting these guys, like, it's not rocket science, but he's just side-scraping, he's hiding his lower front plate pretty well, and that used to be even more important because the lower front plate on this tank used to be terrible back in the day, and there used to be fuel tanks behind it. These days, you don't have the fuel tanks. Oh, Scorpion, 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 Scorpion. Well, I mean, if he's going to go around there... Oh, not even fully aimed. Lovely shot there to kill the mechanical animals. I love that name. I swear, half the fun of online games is just looking at people's usernames. But, so, Puffs, like, he's just been given 5,000 damage blocked by his armour. Got 2,000 damage himself. He's helped, really helped there his team get a 2,500 hit point advantage over the enemy. As well as was 3 kill, now 4 kill advantage over the enemy. And that's just one of those engagements where you look at it and you think, you can complain about the imbalances in this game perfectly legitimately. You can complain about some premium tanks being a bit too good, and you can complain about gold ammo and all that jazz. You can complain about all that. You can complain about RNG as much as you like. Fine. But no amount of RNG, gold ammo, poorly balanced tanks, or any of that is going to be able to make up for people doing dumb stuff. And that M6, the IS-6, the 110, who was the other one? There was someone else. The Basante, of course. How could we forget the gold spamming Basante? Those guys just started driving up a hill, and as soon as they saw someone, it didn't matter that it was a heavy tank, using his armor well, angling, side-scraping. Their chances of doing meaningful damage to him were slim to negligible. Didn't matter, they just stood still and started shooting. Very little thought about, I assume, very little thought about whether it was actually a good idea. So there we go, that's essentially the fun bit of this game done. The friendly team's up 9 kills to 2, they're up 6,000 damage. It's going to take something very special for the enemy team to pull this back. And having seen the caliber of some of the players on the enemy team, I don't think something very special is in the making. There! 110 gets a penetrating shot in. You fired gold, yeah, but he got the penetrating shot in because Puffs was completely broadside on. Because he was just going to get the shot, you know, just trying to get a shot in there, which is fair enough. And there, a well-aimed shot from Puffs into the sort of side, the cheek of that pike nose on the 110, with good old-fashioned armor piercing. Just this enemy Scorpion left alive. Come on, penetrating HE shell, penetrating HE shell. Oh no, such a shame. And the guy dies. Like, I don't know. That game just... yeah. Don't be like those guys. Don't just stop as soon as you see something to shoot at without any thought for whether it's a good idea or not. Anyway, let's have a look at the post-game stats. So that was a pretty decent result for Puffs there. Not quite enough for an ace. Maybe if that HE shell on the Scorpion at the end had landed, it might have been. But go figure. First class, spotter, bruiser, arsonist, fire for effect, shell proof. I think that's a cool-headed at steel wall. Yep, it's cool-headed. 3,401 damage done, 2 kills, 1,307 base experience. Yeah, there isn't really much to say about that. Well done to the Patriot there, over 1,100, almost 1,200 base experience from him. Like, the friendly team did what was needed, don't get me wrong, but that was just ridiculous. And if we have a look at how well those tanks on the enemy team in question did, let's go down the list. And the first one we encounter is our 110 friend. 8 shots fired, 4 hits, 2 penetrations. IS-6, 12 shots fired, 7 hits, 2 penetrations. Bisonte, 7 shots fired, 7 hits, 2 penetrations. And that just leaves our friend in the Mutant, 10 shots fired, 7 hits, 1 penetration. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. 17 shots fired from Puffs. 11 hits, 8 penetrations for that damage count. Quite a chunk of it was actually from longer range. 20 hits received, of which 2 penetrated. Because facing Muppets. 5,300 damage blocked by his armour, 4 enemy vehicles spotted, 6 damage, 2 destroyed, 1,314 assistance damage, 1.85 kilometres travelled. And, okay, so Puffs was using a premium consumable there, so that's 20,000 credits. So he only, quote-unquote, only made a profit of 67,000 credits. It doesn't matter. That was just a silly game. Yeah, don't be like that. One more game to show you. Third game then, and we are joining Sumgrass. Yes, it's going to be one of those games in his 122 TM. That is the Tier 8 Chinese, or one of the Tier 8 Chinese premium medium tanks here on Ensk. Why am I showing you this game? Well, there are 2 reasons. One, because people look at the 122 TM, and this was especially true when it was first announced. They looked at it and went, well, it can't do any damage. It's rubbish. Some people did. So for those of you who don't know, this medium tank, quote-unquote, has pretty good armour, but it's slightly sluggish, so it's definitely toward the heavier end of medium tankhood. For a Chinese tank, it gets pretty good gun depression at 8 degrees. The turret armour is very good, so you can go hull down in this thing. And the gun, well, you get good penetration, really nice alpha damage at 400. But the rate of fire is atrocious, giving this thing horrendous DPM, absolutely horrendous. And so there are some people who, like I say, when it was first announced, said, you can't do damage in this tank. Alright, well, challenge accepted. The other reason I'm showing this is because this is what happens, or what very definitely can happen, when you take a very good player, you give them a good matchup, Sumgrass is top tier here, and you put them on a good map. The 122 TM has decent armour. This is Ensk. It's not... oh, dodgy shot there, and I would argue slightly dubious positioning against that IS-2, but whatever. Artillery. Ensk is a small map. It just is. Goodbye, CS44. Which means matches can be over very quickly. Mobility is kind of less important because it's a small map. And, well, yeah, just the numbers are going to get just a teensy bit silly. So you'll notice, like, look at the reload on this thing. It's still loading. I'd be curious, actually, if Sumgrass, when you get around to watching this, assuming you do, I'd be curious what your equipment on this thing is. Oh, KV2. This is before the changes to the high explosive shell mechanics, by the way. The reason I'm curious is because, in my humble opinion, because the rate of fire of this tank is so bad, I can see a pretty good argument for not running a gun rammer and instead running other stuff. So, because like the reload on this gun is so poor, you're unlikely, even with a gun rammer, you're unlikely to be firing the gun as soon as you're loaded. So are you better off focusing on other things? So for example, I haven't tried it out, but I'm contemplating running vertical stabilizers, vents and optics or something along those lines. So I'd be curious how you're running yours and how you found it. Anyway, hello Mr. Lerva. Now, Sumgrass has moved over to this bit of the map. You might have noticed that whilst the friendly team has actually made pretty good headway in the city, they've lost the field quite spectacularly. So Sumgrass is heading back to do something about that, which seems eminently sensible. Hello, Mr. Type 59. Oh, no, that one didn't connect. And now we've got this long reload to sit through. So Sumgrass is up to 2,383 damage. If he were to die right now, I mean, the game would probably be a loss, but it'd be a pretty decent result. 2.7k now. It'd be a pretty decent result in terms of damage. Most people would be pretty happy about that. Oh, mother. Oh, we are not even started. Oh, right. Super Hell Kitty. Type 59. Let's finally deal with that guy. You know, we had to go at him earlier on, and ooh, IKV gets a penetration in now. And Sumgrass is in an awkward spot because he's down to 255 health whilst this thing has decent armour. He's had artillery plinking him, he's had KV2 spamming HE at him, and tank destroyers, so he hasn't actually been best positioned to use that armour as he might like. I think the engagement with the IS-2 was a little bit sloppy in my opinion. I know you could argue Sumgrass, you know, it's a medium tank trying to position it such that you don't take the hit, I get that, but I think with a tank like this, you've got good enough armour that you could try and not get penetrated by that IS-2. That's my opinion. So, some hero just got a reset off on the friendly base, or was it the enemies moved out of the cap circle? Not sure, we don't know. But Sumgrass is in a position to try and do something about it with his 255 hit points. So he blows, by the look of it, a piece of wall away, I presume preparing for the next shot. The problem, of course, being atrocious. Reload is atrocious, and the Black Prince kills his friend in the process, but leaves himself rather exposed to a shot in the side there. And in this sort of situation, you'd kind of prefer the higher DPM, because you can penetrate the side of a Black Prince regardless. You don't need the high pen, and you know, the higher DPM would mince the Black Prince faster. That Black Prince is playing poorly. He's not angling his armour at all. He's giving Sumgrass nice easy shots into his big, fat, broad flank, to the point that Sumgrass is actually, Sixth Sense, ignoring him and going after the Hellcat, which is probably a sensible move if we're going to be honest. Now, he's loading a high explosive shell here, which I think is sensible. With the AP shells, he has got 400 alpha damage, which is not enough to reliably kill this guy with that one shot, but with the HE round, he is able to, and then he loads another APCR round. This tank fires APCR as standard, by the way. The premium ammunition is heat. Black Prince is chasing him, but as slow as the 122 TM might be, it's not Black Prince levels of slow, and Sumgrass is coming around to try and get the reset on the Tiger, which he successfully achieves. That keeps him in the game, still with only 255 hit points left. Manages to get a building between himself and the Tiger, such that he can turn around and deal with this Black Prince. FV shoots him, repairs the track so that someone's not going to flank him, blocks the shot from the Black Prince, and that just leaves artillery and the Tiger. The artillery is the FV and the AMX-13 F3. They could be irritating. Problem is, we don't know where the Tiger is at the moment. He's not in the cap circle anymore. And the Tiger has 280 alpha damage these days. Pop. And that was a pretty safe position for Sumgrass to take the shot from. He's got a very good turret, and it's a low profile tank, so he was able to go hull down in that position just there. He does have some cupolas, so you don't want to give the Tiger too long to aim at you. You know, pretty good accuracy if you can fully aim the gun on that German heavy. One more shot would be enough to polish the Tiger off. Sumgrass is now firing heat ammunition, but that's because he's run out of everything else. And he is coming at this Tiger from a different direction. Now, I do actually quite like this. Tiger advertises his position by going into the capture circle. The only problem is... oh, goodbye, Tiger. With those walls still in place and the fact that Sumgrass is having to fire heat ammunition, if that wall had been in the way, that would leave Sumgrass in a very dicey position. And although relocating is nice to catch the Tiger unawares, Sumgrass did give up quite a strong position in order to do so. So you could argue either way. A surprisingly big hit there from the FV304. That thing has a pretty piddly gun. For 161, definitely leaves Sumgrass in butt-clenching territory. 2 artillery left to hunt down, no HE rounds to do it with, though they're both tier 6 artillery, so I wouldn't expect him to need the HE to deal with either of them, and pop. And this thing, if memory serves, actually gets surprisingly fast heat rounds, 900 odd meters per second, still slower than the APCR rounds though, and the FV there stopped to aim, which was a terrible idea because Sumgrass was always going to get the better shot. He really should have kept moving in my opinion and just tried to make the shot on him more difficult. AMX-13 F3 is still out there somewhere, we know not where. Doesn't seem like he's AFK because he does have himself 2 kills. And, well, I was going to say we know he's on full health. We don't know that for certain, although it says 300 hit points at the top. That's because he's never been spotted all game. And that thing is fast enough that he could definitely lead Sumgrass here on a merry little chase around the map. But, nonetheless, Sumgrass has to try and do something. Thankfully, it is a small map, so his kind of mediocre mobility isn't going to be the end of the world. Sumgrass can try capping here, of course. Oh, never mind. The AMX is not very imaginative. He just sat in the one spot. I think that's a mistake, but never mind. Sumgrass hunts him down, kills him, and that is the game. And it's nice to see an appreciative team who are willing to congratulate you at the end of a stonking round like that. Let's have a look at the results. Well, I did try and warn you at the beginning that some of the numbers were going to get a bit silly. So, that was Sumgrass's first mark of excellence in the 122 TM. To the best of my knowledge, and I'm sure he'll correct me if I'm wrong, Sumgrass has a penchant for Chinese tanks and kind of sets himself a little goal to 3 mark them. So this is probably, maybe some early games or maybe from an attempt to 3 mark the 122 TM. I don't know. Ace Tanker, unsurprisingly. Hand of God, Bruiser. Duelist, Fire for Effect, Steel Wall, High Caliber, Defender, Top Gun, Pascucci's Medal, Bradley Walters Medal, and of course a Kolobanov's Medal for taking on 5 blokes at the end, on your own, and kicking them all in the spleen. As a very well played game from Sumgrass there. My only critique would be, as I mentioned, I think the engagement toward the beginning against the IS-2 was a bit sloppy, and I think that meant that Sumgrass took a hit from that 122mm gun that he didn't need to. But the rest of it was very well done, and yeah, damn fine result. Silly numbers are silly, so let's have a look at some of them. 7,468 damage done, 8 kills, 1,988 base experience, and in case you weren't counting, that is a total of 11 ribbons and medals and whatnot. Yes, that's quite a lot. For those of you who wish or can't be bothered to do some counting, Sumgrass's damage total there of 7,468, I'm just repeating that in case you need it to be repeated, is more, I believe, than the rest of his team combined. So something for you to think about there. Or if it's not, it's very close to. if I've done my maths slightly wrong. Shout out should probably go on the enemy team too. Name not relevant, loving that name. In his Udezo 3, yes, he was a top tier tank destroyer, but a fragile tank destroyer on a map that doesn't really favour fragile tank destroyers, and he still managed over 4,000 damage. So, shout out to you, my friend. I should probably also do a shout out for the KV2 bottom tier, but still making a verifiable nuisance of himself. 24 shots fired, 22 hits, 21 pens for that damage count, 14 hits received, 2 penetrations, 7 non-penetrations, lots and lots of HE from artillery. 1005 damage blocked by his armour, 1 enemy vehicle spotted, 11 damaged, 8 destroyed, 341 assistance damage, all 100 base defense points, 2.64 kilometers travelled. Even with firing some heat ammo because he ran out of other ammunition, that is still a profit of 214,910 credits. Yes, that's a lot. And especially when you consider that this wasn't sort of a times 5 XP for the first win of the day or something like that, that's a lot of experience. That's very, very well done. I mean, 1988 base XP will convert into lots and lots of stuff, let's be honest. There we go, 3 games for you there in Chinese machines. Different classes, different players, different reasons for showing them, but I hope you still enjoyed them. I certainly enjoyed watching them and commentating, I don't know. I haven't had enough sleep on them. So, all that is left for me to say is if you want to send your own replays to me, I promise I will eventually get round to them. It's just trying to juggle everything in my life at the moment is quite time consuming, so I am trying to get round to things. Yeah, I know. So if you want to whisk some replays my way, upload them to whatreplays.com, copy the URL, paste it into Discord, and in the relevant bit, and I shall take a look. Speaking of which, there will be links in the video description to both Discord and Patreon in case you decide that you want to throw a little bit of support, extra support, behind the channel. With all that said and done, I hope you enjoyed those games and that video, and I look forward to catching you in another one. Happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.